Strengthening of evaluation. Okay, thank you. Yes, so maybe just a technical information. We will be recording this session. So if you wish to, close your video, you're free to do so. We are recording it so we can share it also in our social media channels after the session. So welcome to today's panel on the topic of the contribution of Supreme Audit institutions to an evaluation culture. My name is Helena Stadtmüller. I work on the topic of evaluation capacity development at the DEWAL since 2017 and am currently working with the project for CELAC Plus. And today I have the pleasure to moderate this panel. So welcome. So our topic is what we want to do today is we want to exchange experiences between Latin America and Anglophone Africa on the topic of the contribution of Supreme Audit institutions, or SAIs, on strengthening evaluation culture. Understanding evaluation culture as a culture on a national level, and in particular within public institutions, that seeks to generate evidence and information on the public performance and the public services in order to improve government programs and services, and thus giving evaluation and evidence-based decision-making a high importance in the political cycle. This, of course, needs to go hand in hand with a sound public financial management that improves public services by ensuring that government finances are sustainable, allow an efficient service delivery, and reflect political priorities, including also the Sustainable Development Goals. So SAIs play a key role in building government accountability for the SDGs and in supporting evidence-based political decision-making with independent reviews of the process of SDG implementation in their countries. So we will be discussing this topic with 5 panelists who will each make a short presentation of about 12 to 15 minutes, followed by a slot for questions from the audience. We will be managing the questions and comments through the chat. So the chat will be open during the whole event. Feel free to include your questions and comments right away before you forget your questions and comments. And feel free to indicate if the question is for a particular panelist or for the whole group. So before we start with the presentations, I would like to introduce to you our 5 panelists and also invite you to introduce yourselves, like to the audience to introduce themselves using the chat, indicating your name, your organization, the country you're living. So to our panelists, our first panelist is Mr. Edmond Schoko. He's a manager at the Regularity Audit Department of AFRISAI, the African Organization of English-Speaking Supreme Audit Institutions. He's a chartered accountant, holds an MBA specializing in business strategy and a Master of Laws in International Commercial Law. And he's also the author of several academic papers on business strategy and commercial law. Our second panelist is Leandro Buendia. He's a public administrator and has worked for more than 11 years in the Comptroller's Office of the Republic of Chile. He is currently head of the Unit of Cooperation and International Relations of the Comptroller's Office of Chile and executive director of OLACEPS, the Latin American and Caribbean Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions. The third presentation will be by Julissa Sáenz. She heads the area responsible for audit for the development of public finances in the Comptroller's Office of the Republic of Costa Rica. She has worked in auditing and control of the financial administration system, the national tax system, and national planning and evaluation systems. Dolores Genaro Moya is our 4th panelist. She's a counselor of the Spanish Court of Audit, where she heads 2 departments, the Departments of Social Labor and Social Security Administration and of Political Parties. And she directs the working group for the modernization of the audit section of the Court of Audit. She has a PhD in Economics and Business Administration from the University of Granada and is a professor of applied economics at the same university. Also, she's an honorary research professor at the University of Alcalá de Henares. Last but not least, Juan Antonio Garde. He has been the Director General of the School of Public Finance of the Institute of Fiscal Studies and of Inspection, Evaluation and Quality of the Services of the General State Administration, as well as President of the State Agency for the Evaluation of Public Policies. He currently directs the Advanced Course on Evaluation of Public Policies and Programs for the Court of Audit and the Autonomous Chambers of Audit. Also, he was an international consultant in numerous Latin American countries on the topic of evaluation and supreme audit institutions. So I would like to welcome our 5 panelists. It is a pleasure to have you here. I'm really looking forward to your contributions. And I would just open the floor directly to Edmond Choco from Afro-SAI for the first presentation. Ed, the floor is yours. Edmund, are you there? I think we have lost Ed. Maybe some problems with his internet. I can't see him anymore in the participants. I would thus suggest to start with Olasev's presentation with Leandro, and maybe have Ed's presentation as second presentation once he's back. Leandro, le doy la palabra.
Muchas gracias, Elena. Buenos días a todas y todos quienes nos...
Thank you. And I would like to welcome everyone that is joining us in this forum. And I'm going to start sharing my screen.
Me parece que ahora se está viendo, ¿cierto?
Can you confirm if you are watching my screen?
Yo les voy a contar muy brevemente cuáles son los principales aportes.
I am going to tell you about the main contributions on behalf of OLACEF in order to attain the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals in the Latin American and Caribbean region. I am Leandro Buendia, and as Elena said, I have been working for 11 years now for the Cooperation Unit on International Relations of the National Controller's Office of the Republic of Chile. In addition, since 2013, the office in Chile is in charge of OLACEF. Currently, OLACEF is an organization consisting of 22 audit institutions in Latin America and the Caribbean, 40 countries that you can see now on screen. And in addition to these 22 members, we also have 29 members that are sub-national entities from countries like Argentina, Brazil, and Colombia, among others. And the main purpose of our organization is to promote the exchange of experiences and good practices among its members and to strengthen the capacity of the institutions that join us and to conduct the development of activities and training. OLACEF has been very active, and the strategic goals is to support the process for the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals in the region. And a few years ago, where they approved the last strategic plan, which is currently in force in our organization, one of the main pillars and cross-cut topics was to have the SDGs or Sustainable Development Goals that became an idea or guide for all the ideas that we plan to work on. To summarize, the organization has a series of activities or initiatives that are led by different committees and commissions that we have inside our organization, and that are basically related to the creation and development of virtual courses and workshops. And well, when it was possible before the pandemic, we had face-to-face events and the execution of audits, which is one of the main products that we have. And we have also developed the SDGs and performance audits. And at the same time, we have implemented or supported the implementation of different tools for self-assessment purposes, both when it comes to the EFS and others. And we also support the distribution of different activities for all our members, and we cooperate with different institutions. And as part of our international members, because we cooperate with other agencies, but our main partners are the GIC, which we are currently conducting a program with the purpose of strengthening external control when it comes to the environmental topics. And this program lasted approximately 5 years, and we had to extend it due to the impact of the pandemic back in 2020 in the region. And we are currently negotiating or starting with the implementation in the region of a new program that is related to the anti-corruption fight. And another strategic partner is the Inter-American Development Bank that has also financed a series of projects specific that and relevant to our organization. And we also cooperate with IDI, the Initiative for the Development of INTOSAI, which basically has training programs throughout the region, and we help coordinate these training programs. Which have been our core initiatives that we have executed recently? Well, when it comes to training, we have developed some virtual mass courses that are self-guided. Well, currently we had two courses. One is a mock on the role of EFS for the implementation of the 2030 agenda and how they are related as part of this agenda to the work of each of these institutions. And this is something that we launched at the end of 2018 and has been really successful. And it's available in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Portuguese, and open for everyone in the region. To anyone that's interested, well, they are welcome to do so. And the second MOOC that we launched at the end of 2019 is related to the development of performance audits. It's very complete and open, and we have it in the same 3 languages. Within our organization, one of the main topics that we work on are the general meetings of OLACEF that are conducted at least once a year, generally at the end of the year. And during this meeting, we have to develop technical topics such as studies developed by the institutions and that are going to be presented in order to take on conclusions that can be implemented throughout the region. As an example, during the meeting of 2017 and 2016, among the first and most important topics, we had precisely the SDGs and how they can be associated as goals to the work of the audit that we conduct at each of these institutions. As part of this technical work, we have also developed a series of webinars and virtual workshops also related to the EFS. And as part of the initiatives that we have in our organization, we normally try to see the final purposes. And we also have the declaration in Punta Cana regarding the promotion of citizens' participation in the follow-up and audit of the SDGs for the 2030 agenda. And this is an official statement from the 22 members of OLACEF where they commit to the implementation and support of the 2030 agenda and the sustainable development goals, along with a basic component of citizen participation. And as part of the operation of this statement, a series of participation indicators were set, and they are revised on a yearly basis. And we also inform about the advances made last year because of the impact of the pandemic in the region. All of the initiatives that we had that were face-to-face had to be reprogrammed or redefined. And in that sense, we had a series of webinars. And the first cycle of webinars, where we had 11 sessions, was about the different topics related with the role of the audit institutions in relation to 2030 agenda. And the second cycle was related to the different products and services and results generated by each of these committees in the region. And in that sense, last year we had 20 sessions with over 16,000 participants, with an average of 800 people per webinar, which for us was really successful because they really caught the attention. And as part of this focus that was implemented on behalf of our organization on topics related to SDGs, we also created a page which is ods.olasebs.com, which can be like a central repository for all the initiatives presented by all our members and interested parties in relation to the SDGs. And it is currently working, and anyone can take a look at it, and you can find the initiatives that have been uploaded by anyone in the region. And we wanted to have some mass trainings during 2020, but it has been quite complicated because of the impact of the pandemic. And the second topic was the development of our new portal. And the one that we have needed to be renewed. So it was in response to the needs that we had back then. So we had a series of things. And then we had the support of GIC that allowed us to have a whole process for the development of our new site, and we wanted to have it working for this year. And among other topics related with the 2030 agenda, there are a series of polls that we conducted within our organization that have also been quite innovative, because in the world of these audit institutions, we wanted to do something. And back in 2019, we conducted a survey on the situation of gender within the Supreme Audit institutions related to an audit when it comes to gender equality, and results were quite innovative because we've never seen a survey of this type, and it allowed us to take on this topic in the region because it's something that it's very current. And the results of this survey, along with an audit that we conducted as well, the final conclusion was that we needed a policy for gender equality for all our institutions, and thus we have a work group for that specific topic. Another important survey took place last year with the purpose of evaluating the impact of the pandemic on the people that are working as part of these Supreme Audit institutions. And well, the conclusion is not new, but it is relevant because it's supported by a series of answers where we can see the differentiated impact for women and men, specifically on the distribution of domestic tasks and who takes care of children and things like this. And at the end of the day, this is going to have an impact on the efficiency and the quality of work of everyone. We have an indication that you have only 3 minutes left, And maybe we can speak a little slower for in. I'll try, but this is a problem that we have. Uh, you are muted, so we cannot hear you, Leandro.
Su micrófono está en mute.
Ahora sí.
Okay, I'm back.
Bueno, entrando ahora al punto
So
relevante
moving
de
on
nuestro
to
trabajo,
the most relevant part of our work, as I said before, well, these are the coordinated audits. We have different audits. They are all coordinated, and these coordinated audits for OLSF are quite special because the main characteristic is that they have a matrix for common planning, which means that we gather all the institutions that are part of this coordinated audit, and then they agree a common goal for the audit, and then they start with the common planning, and then each of these audit institutions are going to conduct their field work, and later on at a meeting that we said consolidation of results, then they meet in order to consolidate results into a final matrix which allows for two things. First, to take into consideration all regional aspects, and as part of this audit, and also facilitate the creation of a regional report with the most important findings. And one of the most important audits that we've had is a coordinated audit on the environmental liabilities that we are conducting this year. And we have also had coordinated audits in order to work on protected areas in Latin America and the Caribbean to assess renewable energy association to F7, and also the Ibero-American audit, because we had the participation to 17 countries from Latin America and the Caribbean, and also the court from Spain. So it had a very important impact. As for the strategy behind all these initiatives, is that we start with a conversation with multilateral institutions as part of all these coordinated audits. On behalf of OLACEF, we try to invite international experts or institutions that are aware of the topic that we're interested in. And in the case of environmental liabilities, for example, we had the technical support of ECLAC and also GIC. And in the case of the audit from F5, it was very important to have the technical support of Folio Mujeres. And first, we need to allow for a multilateral dialogue with different experts on different areas. And second, as part of the strategy that we apply for the creation of for capacity building, well, from these audits, we learn by working on it. And finally, it is going to generate a dialogue by having a report with a consolidated position, which is going to be relevant for the whole region. And as I said, the main purpose of these coordinated audits within the region is to develop capacities. And this is why I say that the most important topic of these audits is to learn, but hands-on. And as part of these coordinated audits, prior to the beginning or prior to the development of the planning meeting, we conduct a series of different stages for capacity building and training. We need a mock on the role of these institutions on the implementation of the 2030 agenda, and then a course on the performance evaluation, and so on, and to try and bridge these gaps and start with the field work. And finally, this is more general on how we develop the work as such, and we have three types of audits that we are all familiar with. And then we also have the work where the supreme audit institutions need to define what's most important as part of the audit. And for the last year, it has been environmental topics and also gender equality. And something relevant that we have is that once we have all these consolidated information from the different regions, we need to present it on international forums, and they have been well received, and it has had a very important impact on different forms, for example, on the Latin American and topics. Uh, we presented the results on a world conference on women leaders and so on. So it has been quite relevant as part of the planning process for the audit. We have also considered a strategy in order to convey all these results with a higher impact for all this work. And finally, I would like to tell you or to stress the importance of this evaluation through all the work as an organization, and also most of all the coordinated audits, because that's the main tool that we have. These audits in general that are conducted by these supreme audit institutions are an example that is going to vary depending on the mandate of each one of them. So they have to assess their role or how to implement the public policies on behalf of each of the governments in a transparent and independent manner, which is very important. And that's the main benefit of these results that is going to allow for the citizens and the civil society to get to know better how to implement the public policies, and also the impact that they are going to have on the independent opinion and evaluation as well. And that would be all for me. Thank you. Thank you, Leandro, for such an interesting presentation. And the work that you conduct is really impressive. So thank you. We'll continue with our next presentation. We'll see if we have Ed Choco. Ed, are you here?
Yes, I am here now. I've made it.
Okay, perfect. So I would give you, like, the floor is yours for your presentation.
Thank you so much, Helena. Just allow me to share my screen and let me know when you can see it from your end.
Avísame si lo pueden ver.
Just let me know when you can see it, please.
We can see it perfectly. Thank you.
You can see it perfectly. Thank you so much. Good day to my fellow panelists and all you highly esteemed colleagues who are making up the audience for today's discussion. The gratitude of AfroSAI goes to all of you and the organizers of this meeting for granting us such an opportunity to discuss on how SAIs can contribute to SDG evaluation through our PFM RF version 2.0. Since the dawn of mankind has been fascinated about existential matters such as good health, education for its offspring, climatic conditions, and sometimes this fascination has gone as far as the sighting of the El Chupacabras in Puerto Rico and Mexico. But as far as global institutional memory can save one, the International Development Agenda has been actively led by the United Nations and its technical agencies from their inceptions in the late 1940s. Now, to create a new people-centered development agenda, the SDGs, which include 17 goals and 169 targets, has superseded the MDGs. Under this new dispensation, it is noted that SAIs, as a model institution, need to identify and play their role in a visible and deliberate way towards contributing to the attainment of SDGs by their countries. The PFM, that is the Public Financial Management Reporting Framework, is an Excel-based tool that contains more than 400 audit procedures designed to interrogate the entire public financial management cycle of a country. It focuses on the core PFM institutions and selected line ministries which are deemed more endearing to the achievement of SDGs. The tool enables auditors to use various audit evidence gathering techniques and methods commonly used in the performance, compliance, and financial audit as for the Inter-SAI SAIs. Now, together, AfroSAI and the GIZ Good Financial Governance Program in Africa, our thinking behind this tool is driven by two philosophies, if I may say. On one hand, we believe the attainment of Agenda 2030 to a reasonable extent is very much dependent on good governance through transparency and accountability in the management of public funds, especially those which had been allocated for SDG-related programs. Now, as the constitutionally empowered proverbial watchdogs of transparency and accountability, SAIs therefore have a position to play towards the attainment of these goals. On the other hand, we believe that a well-functioning PFM system is very central to the contribution towards the achievement of SDGs. However, the reality is that funding national programs towards the achievement of these goals will only work if PFM systems function efficiently, effectively, and consistently for the benefit of the country's citizens. I'm going to briefly share on how this tool works. Now, the PFM reporting framework enables SAIs to audit core public financial management institutions such as ministries of finance, revenue authorities, and parliament, as well as selected budget spending line ministries which are endearing to the achievement of SDGs, such as the Ministry of Health and Education. These budget spending ministries would have been identified for audit due to their potential contribution to the achievement of SDGs at country level. Now, from there, the PFM reporting framework, through various audit procedures that are embedded within it, designed to audit the implementation of SDGs, further enables the auditor as an advisor to the government to draw up an evidence-based audit report on the extent of the implementation of SDGs at both ministerial and country level. So in essence, ladies and gentlemen, the PFM reporting framework guides the auditors to perform audits on the implementation of SDGs in two particular ways. Firstly, it prescribes to the auditor to focus their risk-based audit on the ministries that are central to meeting SDGs. And then secondly, the tool avails several audit procedures to the auditor that guides on how SDG implementation is audited throughout the PFM cycle, per ministry, per year, and in one particular country. Now, the PFM reporting framework is now available in English, French, and Portuguese. And for more information on how it works, I would like to invite everyone on this panel today to visit our website, download the free guides and manuals, which are all in all these three languages, for you to appreciate more how this tool is working. Now, SAIs have already implemented the tool. As you can see through this dashboard, these are some of the results that we've been getting from actual live audits that have been performed. Now, the SAIs that have already implemented the tool have indicated that they consider it to be a game changer in their work. The tool has managed to prompt SAIs to give recommendations that address the areas of PFM failure and weaknesses via a thorough and evidence-based root cause analysis. With its highly sophisticated dashboard, such as the one that I'm sharing on the screen right now, upon following the various prescribed audit procedures within the tool, SAIs can report on SDGs in several areas. And this can include how government has performed by PFM process and by institution in meeting SDG targets. Auditors can also report on the performance of institutions in integrating SDGs into their PFM processes. And also, auditors the key overall performance risk areas may be identified and reported on by the auditors as red flag zones. Now, as I have already mentioned, the PFM reporting framework is already being implemented in several African SAIs. And beyond Africa, in other Portuguese-speaking SAIs, for example, Brazil and Portugal. All these SAIs are at a different level of having produced both internal and external audit reports using this tool. Of course, the tool itself is poised for greater potential contribution. Through SAI's continuous application of the PFM reporting framework and working together with other globally renowned PFM diagnostic tools and institutions, such as PEFA and the IMF Fiscal Transparency Indices, amongst others, the tool will continue to reveal its potential in prompting holistic and sustainable public financial management reforms. Now, when we looked at it, currently there are 6 areas of contributions that have already been realized. Firstly, the tool contributes by identifying the key SDG implementation risk areas. That is towards better focus for government efforts. It also contributes by comparing both entity and country performance over a timeline. And that performance can allow us to then benchmark from one institution to another and from one timeline to another. It also contributes to the understanding of root causes of SDG implementation delays and failures. We are trying to move away as auditors from merely addressing symptoms of problems within the public financial management space to actually addressing the root cause of problems in our systems. And this is towards relevant solution formulation and corrective measures. The tool itself has also led to a better understanding of SDG trends from one year to another and from one institution to another. And all of this assists our governments for better and well-informed future planning. Because as you see the trends forming, you can anticipate and plan better for the future. The tool itself provides an opportunity for a robust and consistent auditing of SDG implementation by SAIs. Now, what we have noticed is most SAIs did not have or do not have a credible tool or mechanism to audit SDGs consistently year after year. Now, with a tool such as this one, this gives the SAIs a sustainable process to which they can buy in and use every year. And last but not least, the tool itself contributes to clear reporting to stakeholders on SDG implementation. Not just any clear reporting, but clear reporting from an independent and knowledgeable source, the SAI itself. Now, the use of this tool is not without any challenge. Some of the challenges we have already anticipated, and some of the challenges we are already going through them. And when we've looked at it so far, we have 3 cross-cutting challenges which we believe any user of this tool needs to be aware. It's somewhat sort of like a caveat. The first one is on consistency. SAIs need to be consistent, and they need to consistently perform these audits annually using the tool in order for them to get the full benefit of having such a tool. And by doing so, they'll be able to contribute meaningfully to their national agenda of achieving SDGs. Collaboration. Now, the issue of SDG implementation and evaluation is a multi-dimensional and multidisciplinary function. SAIs on their own do not have all the wisdom and knowledge to address this topic. And as such, they need to open up to collaborating with like-minded institutions in this area for maximum achievement. Consequences. Now, if the reports of the SAI on areas of PFM weakness and failures which are impeding upon the SDG attainment, if these are not followed up with the relevant authorities and the required consequences are not meted out, all this work, all these audits, all these resources that we're putting towards evaluation and implementation of SDGs, they will all be done in vain. And the SAI contribution will be rendered mute. Now, those are the three areas of challenge that we are going to be facing, or that we've already started facing. But in conclusion, I would like to say that the extent to which a supreme audit institution is able to make a difference to the lives of the citizens in its country, it definitely depends on several palpable actions by that SAI. And in today's world, nothing could be more beneficial than a SAI's direct contribution to the attainment of SDGs. Now, with the AfroSAI Public Financial Management Reporting Framework, version 2.0, this tool is an enabler such for SAIs. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for giving me this platform.
Thank you very much, Ed. It's really impressive work that AfroSAI has done with the PFM reporting framework on aligning SDGs with public financial management. Thank you very much. We have heard now two regional examples from OLACEPS and AfroSAI, and we will now look a little bit more closer on national examples of the role of Supreme Audit institutions on evaluation culture. So our first presentation on a national example will be by Julissa Sáenz from the Controller's Office of Costa Rica. Julissa, le paso la palabra y sí, me alegro mucho de su contribución.
Good morning, everyone. I work for the fiscalizing agent, the auditing agency of Costa Rica, and I want to talk about the work that we're doing on a level of Central America from the point of view of auditing agencies. That works with a cooperative of fiscalizing auditing agencies. The importance of the 2030 agency that are checking and observing the development of these goals in each country, and the individual data, because every country chooses what data they're going to be using. And in that line, we have developed, as Mr. Leandro had talked, that are all related to some sort of objective. And actually, in this moment, we're doing audit over a sustainable institution using data analysis. That is the first pilot in the model of the Sustainable Development Goals of ISAM. What is this model? This is a practical guide using 5 principles, using the SDGs. ISM is based on 5 principles, focusing on the results, recognizing the diversity of the EFS, basing on the ISS AI, inclusivity, and aggregated value, and also generating value added. So having emphasis on the interested parties to be able to create a guide to have an implementation of the EFS.
De desempeño o operativa, como le decimos en Costa Rica, que se centra en el logro de las metas acordadas a nivel nacional.
These are based on the goals that were agreed on, based on the SDGs. These are focused on entities and processes, and also the interactions of these processes to be able to find the
incorporen acciones para mejorar el impacto de la auditoría en todo lo que es el proceso. Y no puedo dejar de mencionar lo que ya mencionaba el señor Choco sobre la SAI 12. La importancia de este mandato que se refiere a que las FS deben generar valor por medio de generar una diferencia en la vida de sus ciudadanos. Entonces, la medida en que las CFS puedan marcar esta diferencia depende del fortalecimiento de la rendición de cuentas, transparencia e integridad del gobierno y las entidades del sector público que las CFS puedan impulsar. Es decir, las CFS contribuyen a esto por medio de una auditoría independiente de las operaciones del gobierno e informando sobre sus hallazgos, de tal forma que los encargados de la gobernanza del sector público puedan cumplir con sus responsabilidades y respondan también a los hallazgos y recomendaciones de la auditoría. En segunda instancia, para marcar esa diferencia se requiere demostrar pertinencia continua para los ciudadanos, para el Parlamento y otras partes interesadas, y se logra también siendo una organización modelo a través del liderazgo con el ejemplo. Ya sobre lo que es el tema de fondo, en general las auditorías de implementación de los ODS buscan concluir sobre el progreso realizado hacia el logro de la meta acordada a nivel nacional, sobre la probabilidad de que se logre la meta en función de las tendencias actuales y la adecuación de la meta nacional en comparación con la meta de los ODS correspondiente. Es decir, se debe llegar a una conclusión sobre el grado de coherencia e integración en la implementación de políticas. Particularmente, el objetivo de la auditoría que estamos comentando, de la auditoría CASP, es evaluar las acciones de la gestión gubernamental dirigidas a la implementación de la meta nacional acordada vinculada a la meta 12.7 de los ODS. Promoción de prácticas de compras públicas que sean sostenibles, de conformidad con las políticas y prioridades nacionales, considerando aspectos de resiliencia. Actualmente, 14 entidades de fiscalización superior participan en esta auditoría cooperativa, las que ven aquí en la diapositiva, y son coordinadas por la EFS de Costa Rica en estrecha coordinación y colaboración con los coordinadores de la IDI y los equipos regionales de recursos, que son un grupo de expertos regionales en auditoría del desempeño, expertos en adquisiciones públicas sostenibles y expertos en análisis de datos. La auditoría...
disculpe, Julissa, nos piden del servicio de traducción que hablemos un poco más lento para poder traducir más fácilmente.
Ah, perfecto.
Muchas gracias. Gracias.
La auditoría está en línea con la literatura de las compras públicas sostenibles, ya que la contratación pública sustentable es considerada una herramienta para alcanzar los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. ¿Por qué? Porque el gasto público, por su magnitud, desempeña una función clave en el crecimiento de la economía. Y si ese gasto, por medio de las compras públicas, considera también las dimensiones económicas, social y ambiental, esto puede contribuir a una senda de crecimiento sostenible. Aquí hablamos de lo que es un enfoque en la relación calidad-precio sobre la base del ciclo de vida completo de los productos, que es muy diferente a cómo se realizan las compras actualmente, donde se busca el precio más bajo y no se consideran objetivos secundarios de política, como por ejemplo poder incidir en temas de género, niñez, en temas medioambientales, entre otros. Entonces, la eficacia y la eficiencia de las compras se consigue aplicando esos criterios, temas que tienen que ver con la economía circular, temas que tienen que ver incluso con innovación. Y así el gobierno tiene el potencial de tener un impacto importante también en el comportamiento de los bienes, de los proveedores de bienes y servicios. El diseño de esta auditoría considera también el tema de análisis de datos y se busca que los equipos accedan a los datos transaccionales para hacer análisis de ellos. Esto se convierte en un desafío porque para determinar cuáles compras públicas son sostenibles, se requiere del uso de datos de otras fuentes y esto aporta a la complejidad del estudio. La matriz analítica CASP combina el análisis de estas tres dimensiones, ambiental, social y económica, con otros ejes fundamentales como lo son la gobernanza, el marco de las políticas públicas y el nivel operativo, todo lo cual debe estar alineado y en armonía. Propiamente, en el tema del marco metodológico hay dos áreas de investigación, una sobre la gobernanza y otra sobre la implementación ya en el sector agropecuario, propiamente porque hubo que delimitar el alcance de la auditoría. En la parte de la gobernanza tenemos el enfoque integrado de gobierno, la visión de no dejar a nadie atrás, el involucramiento de las partes interesadas, la gestión de los recursos y la resiliencia. Y en la implementación de las compras públicas, específicamente en este sector, las tres dimensiones, económica, social y ambiental. En esta lámina pueden ver cómo se asocian 50 indicadores de eficiencia, eficacia y economía a estas dos áreas y dimensiones mencionadas anteriormente. Por ejemplo, en la dimensión ambiental tenemos 9 indicadores, 2 de economía, 3 de eficacia y 4 de eficiencia. Aquí les dejamos ejemplos de algunos de esos indicadores que, como vemos, cruzan con esas dimensiones. Por ejemplo, el indicador de eficacia cruza con la dimensión social en el tema, por ejemplo, de mujeres o con la dimensión ambiental en el tema, por ejemplo, de producción orgánica o de servicios sostenibles. Compartir con ustedes también que, digamos, la auditoría y la virtualidad, como lo han mencionado otros panelistas, han permitido colaborar con la región, ¿verdad? Compartiendo diferentes metodologías en la realización de esta auditoría, por ejemplo, lo que es la metodología Q o análisis de sentimiento, que tiene un enfoque más cuantitativo, y aquí, digamos, se pusieron a disposición herramientas de esta metodología, se ha compartido cómo realizar un seguimiento de las disposiciones o cómo generar impacto a lo largo de toda la auditoría así como compartir experiencias en otros foros como este. Ya para ir finalizando, con respecto a los desafíos y oportunidades enfrentados, si bien existe interés de todas las EFS en auditar lo que son las compras públicas, esto pasa en primera instancia porque pueda haber una comprensión de los conceptos de lo que son las compras públicas sostenibles por parte de los equipos de auditoría y también del manejo de la metodología de lo que es la auditoría del desempeño. Para mitigar estos riesgos, se realizó una serie de cursos, ¿verdad?, en modalidad virtual, de forma también práctica y concomitante a lo que era la fase de planificación, para poder nivelar este conocimiento. Además, como mencioné, se cuenta con un equipo de mentores expertos que guían y revisan el trabajo realizado. Otro desafío tiene que ver con el tema de la legislación de los diferentes países, ¿verdad? Y para esto, como mencioné, se requiere ese seguimiento cercano al proceso de la auditoría para garantizar el control de calidad hasta lo que es la emisión del informe. El tema de los datos, sin duda alguna, es un reto, ¿verdad? Por la disponibilidad o la calidad de esta información en cada país. Y esto, como mencioné, está siendo gestionado por este grupo de mentores. La auditoría se encuentra en lo que es su fase de ejecución. Tuvo un pequeño atraso por el tema de la pandemia, pero se esperaría que a finales de año esté disponible los informes nacionales y el informe regional. Las entidades de fiscalización superior han atravesado una curva de aprendizaje muy fructífera y estos resultados han sido o incluido lo que es el desarrollo del modelo CASP, el material educativo relacionado. También se ha requerido reflexionar sobre la heterogeneidad de las entidades de fiscalización superior y digamos, toda la conjunción de este equipo de auditores de desempeño experimentados y de los especialistas en compras públicas sostenibles y especialistas en análisis de datos han permitido construir un conocimiento y comprensión común del modelo de auditoría de los ODS de la IDI, así como también de la SAIs sobre la auditoría de desempeño. Y todo esto también es muy necesario que esté vinculado con el objetivo de la auditoría, porque volviendo a conectar con la importancia de marcar una diferencia en la vida de los ciudadanos establecida en la ISAI 12, la realización de un estudio de este tipo sobre este tema contribuye a eso, porque la recuperación económica regional posterior a la pandemia requerirá necesariamente de la implementación de prácticas exitosas de compras públicas sostenibles para la construcción de un mundo más equitativo y justo, por lo que tenemos una gran responsabilidad en nuestras manos. Muchas gracias por el espacio para compartir esta experiencia.
Excelente, Julissa, muchísimas gracias y felicitaciones.
Excellent. Thank you and congratulations to the methodological process that is being integrated, of how to have those transversal topics be present in auditing processes. Very interesting, and I hope you have lots of success of implementing that audit. We're going to continue with the next presentation. It is from Spain with Dolores Genaro. Dolores, I want to remind you from the interpreting team, we need for you not to speak too quickly. I will try. And also, and to the public, thank you for all the questions. We're going to be collecting continue using the chat if you have questions about the presentations. We're going to be answering them at the end in the discussion process. Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to try to share my screen. If there is a problem with the presentation, please let me know. Well, I'm going to begin thanking to the institution, Elena, for the invitation, for presenting. I would like to, in these minutes that I have, translate some considerations and reflections around auditing processes and evaluations with focus on evaluations in the EFS. And I will make reference to some experiences of the tribunals of Spain. I have divided this presentation in two parts. I don't know if I have time for the last part, considering that I only have a few minutes, but I would like to focus around the path towards evaluation of auditing operatives, um, considering the EFS. In this first part, I think that we must begin knowing where we're parting from in that possible path towards the evaluation of by part of the EFS, the audit institutions. Something that's very relevant is that when it was being created in 1992, this work around public have this committee of knowledge sharing committee. Some auditing institutions of France were met with the objective of having access to the evaluation and making it more easy, and also implementing the concepts of evaluation, always having that trajectory in mind. Another important moment was the approval of the directory of INPOSAI in the Congress of INPOSAI in 2016, and more recently, in 2019, the directory has translated to the framework of professional, the so these are fundamental moments for this transition of the auditing institutions for evaluation of public institutions and law, with a focus on evaluation, because we're evolving the different auditing institutions in terms of the evaluation of different programs and politics. We can identify that mission having reference of a path, of a road. I would reflect around this, how the auditing institutions, we have the same parting point, we have the same culture, the same conditions, the same rules, so we can find different paths to be able to develop the evaluation. Some auditing institutions are going to have like this first path that's very cleared, it's very smooth, not many obstacles. While we're going to find other paths that are a little bit more like this one, some difficulties that I'm going to be commenting on. These are all depending on the factors that, from my point of view, include or determine this evolution and the evaluation of public policy and some are going to be more difficult, some are going to be more smooth. What are going to be the factors that are going to determine this process of evaluation um, um, on behalf of the auditing institutions? Well, in the first case is a mandate. The mandate can determine the way that they permit the realization of auditing, or in the moment of implementing the politic. In terms of this case in Spain, we were only able to use expose mandate, what type of evaluation and what methodology can be used is dependent on the mandate. The second is the decision makers, the political decision makers, the ones that design and implement the public policy, if they're committed with the evaluation. The evaluation may be permitted, but in many cases, in terms of Spain's case, the evaluation has been um, linked to the politics, and this is also presenting a series of difficulties. Also, Parliament is very relevant. The in other interventions, it has been discussed the importance of Parliament in our auditing processes, and in this case is also relevant. The organization that is external to the SAE, and also the trajectory that they have, their background, all the context that is going to be or facilitating or not facilitating that process. And in relation to the mandate, I want to mention that the SAI, in one of the documents in the compendium of evaluation, affirms that we do not need a special mandate to be able to realize the evaluation of programs. Any auditing institution that decides to can realize these evaluations or include them uh, within a mandate for auditing. For example, in case of Europe, in the tribunals of accounts of Europe, this audit is more linked to the outcomes, but also it doesn't really matter what the process is. It can actually strengthen, and I think that effectively the implementation of the of the evaluations can be one of the largest challenges of the audit institutions, that can also permit us strengthen us like institutions and be more relevant. In terms of the political deciders, it is important to the evaluation can is very dependent on the design of the public government, and can be an indicator after the process. They also generate the possibility of having the data and analyzing it, and all of this is going to permit and help the realization of the audit. And an element that is more relevant in the audit process from the superior departments is having the possibility of having the data to be able to create evaluations, to also permit us to advance in the realization of the evaluations of public policy. In terms of Parliament, my opinion is that the Parliament must demand evaluations that can help and accelerate the process from the operative of audit for the evaluation of public policies for an audit institution, a superior audit institution. For example, in the case of the tribunes of counts of France, the parliament has been asking from the tribunal itself evaluations, and we're having more and more evaluations in the case of France, and also in one of the moments where we were having audits, it has facilitated that the mandate be modified to permit evaluation of public policies. That's why the parliament role is critical. And then finally, in terms of institution, the SAI, the culture of that institution, it itself can affect a lot the implementation of the evaluation.
En dos grandes grupos. Por un lado, un cambio cultural y por un lado, un cambio metodológico. En cuanto a los cambios culturales en la propia institución, en primer lugar, lógicamente...
In the first case, it requires a cultural change, a formation of training, of the abilities and techniques of the EPP, what methodology can be used, the technology, the language of the evaluation to be able to apply the audit. In this case, in terms of the Tribunal of Counts of France, we have organized a formation of political policies for our auditors of the regional auditing organization of Spain with other institutions that have experience in the evaluation. And it is having its harvest because the auditors themselves are the ones that are...
Es posible y además es un cambio que lo ven como positivo a futuro en la institución. Dejan de hacer el trabajo, digamos, habitual para introducir algún cambio que permita dotar de más relevancia a los resultados de la auditoría operativa. Por otra parte, el cambio que implica dentro de la institución tener una mayor flexibilidad y una mayor tolerancia hacia estos cambios metodológicos y estos cambios en el lenguaje de los que estamos hablando, y también un cierto cambio de perspectiva que tiene que venir no solamente desde los propios equipos de auditoría, sino también, desde mi punto de vista, desde los órganos de gobierno de la institución. Es decir, que los propios, en nuestro caso, consejeros o auditores generales o presidentes de la institución auditora crean y quieran impulsar ese cambio de perspectiva en la realización de evaluaciones de política o de auditoría operativa con enfoque de evaluación. También en el Tribunal de Cuentas de España organizamos alguna jornada de alto nivel para conocer experiencias de otras EFS europeas en esta evolución hacia la evaluación de políticas públicas y cómo lo han ido consiguiendo. Y luego, por último, en relación con este cambio cultural, es muy relevante el aumento de la difusión y de la relevancia de los resultados de esa auditoría con enfoque evaluador o evaluación de políticas públicas en la opinión pública, porque es un elemento fundamental de la evaluación, esa esa difusión de los resultados para que sean conocidos por las terceras partes interesadas y por la sociedad en general, además de por el Parlamento, lógicamente, y todos los grupos de la sociedad civil, ¿no? Y por último, un cambio en la metodología. En la metodología porque cada vez tienen más relevancia los datos y el uso de la tecnología, no solamente, lógicamente, en la evaluación, sino en la auditoría en general. Todos lo sabemos en nuestro trabajo diario, que cada vez necesitamos más los datos y la tecnología para obtener resultados relevantes, pero también el recurso a investigaciones previas o evaluaciones previas en la materia, opiniones, grupos de expertos y, en definitiva, terceras partes interesadas que pueden aportar a la auditoría una visión enriquecedora que pueda orientar incluso cómo se realiza y cómo se enfoca la auditoría. La definición clara de las preguntas de evaluación como un elemento fundamental y la introducción de métodos y de lenguaje propio de la evaluación, como decía antes. Todo esto, tanto los cambios metodológicos como cultural, tienen que venir dados al mismo tiempo, lógicamente, ¿no? Quería introducirle un ejemplo, pero no sé, Elena, si tengo tiempo o no, en relación con una auditoría con enfoque evaluador realizada en el Tribunal de Cuentas.
Yo
Sí.
le quisiera dar un minuto más.
¿Un
no
minuto?
sé si es suficiente tiempo para
Sí.
todo el ejemplo.
Me quedo justo en lo esencial, si te parece. Vale, pues en relación a un informe de fiscalización, una auditoría operativa realizada de un programa de políticas activas de empleo que se denomina PAE, Programa de Activación para el Empleo, en el cual nos propusimos tres grandes objetivos: medir la eficacia del programa, medir la eficiencia del programa y medir el diseño del programa. Quizá el elemento diferencial respecto a otras fiscalizaciones operativas realizadas anteriormente fue introducir la evaluación del diseño, pero también la eficacia y la eficiencia se realizó con un enfoque evaluador. En relación con la eficacia, donde comparamos el grado de inserción laboral o la mejora en la empleabilidad de los beneficiarios del programa, sí que llegamos a una serie de conclusiones en cuanto a los días de más que trabajaron o la formación en relación con otros desempleados. Pero un elemento fundamental fue detectar que la empleabilidad de las personas que habían formado parte de ese programa fue menor que la de los grupos de control, es decir, la de otros desempleados que fueron excluidos y del conjunto de desempleados de larga duración. Es decir, que esos grupos de control, que es un elemento más propio de la evaluación, nos permitió llegar a una conclusión en relación con la escasa eficacia del programa. En cuanto a la eficiencia, también consideramos el coste de los tutores que orientaban a los receptores del programa y de la ayuda para contrastarlo con la posible calidad o disminución de la calidad de los servicios, puesto que un número muy elevado de tutores atendían a una gran cantidad de tutores atendían a un número excesivo de
care of a number of people that were unemployed. And as for the design, the conclusion was that
al comenzar la fiscalización, ¿por qué la ejecución presupuestaria de este programa en un país como el nuestro, que en 2015 tenía una tasa de desempleo tan elevada, tenía una ejecución muy baja, un 19% tan solo, teniendo en cuenta que los fondos eran fondos procedentes de la Unión Europea? Y llegamos a la conclusión de que estaba mal diseñado y estimaron
the design. So they were analyzing the potential beneficiaries in such a way that they were not able to reach the goal. Well, I don't want to take much of your time, so I apologize for taking time from the next presentation. And this is it for me. If you have any questions. we can do so in the chat.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Bernardo, you wanted to say something
sobre la traducción.
about the interpretation? No, the thing is that we had a problem with the channels, so, but no problem now. Thank you.
Bueno, estaremos siguiendo con la última
Well,
presentación.
we'll continue with the last presentation on behalf of Juan Antonio Garde. The floor is yours.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon from Spain. And first of all, I would like to thank the organization for this interesting debate. And I think that it has been a good guidance for the future development and for the incorporation of the elements from the technical culture and also the evaluation culture in its wide sense for the Supreme Audit Institution. And this, in addition to being the last to present after so many interesting experiences and so many different lines of work that are also attractive and provocative in a positive sense, made me decide not to use the presentation that I had prepared. I apologize, Elena. So I'm going to start from the comments that have been made, and I am going to integrate all of these to what is the fundamental role that has to be complied in the sense of a more theoretical focus when it comes to the proximity between this evaluation and the different supreme audit institutions. Because evidently, during the presentations that we heard this morning, well, they have clearly proposed at practical level how we can advance when it comes to which in my perspective was more on the theoretical side. So I am going to consider how today and even beyond this academic proximity, well, I would like to make this evaluation and a complex element. Theoretically speaking, is going to be very complete as well, to the margin of many other elements that are on the practical side, to see how today in practice there is a whole series of tools and instruments. And this is what they are indicating as the roadmap to incorporate as a supplement the evaluation focus as Dolores Genaro just mentioned, which would be just another element that would make more efficient and effective the activities of the operational audits. And we need to generate a process that would clearly consist of a change and an improvement of the results of the operational audits to the extent that we can make it according to the conditions that have been established. So regional experiences that are so powerful as those that have been incorporated by our two friends from Latin America and from Leandro as well. And as for the regional case, well, of course, of the English speaking area in Africa, and all this process for our African brothers, well, they are currently considering what is now a reality, and this is an evaluation that starts from recent years, and it has been developed on behalf of the SDGs and the 2030 agenda as an element that is going to be a part to these advances beyond the individual audit institutions, and it will result in a collective advance by regional area, and thus this is going to be closer to the concrete needs of those areas when it comes to public policies that are fundamental. And in here, I would just like to remind you that in the case of Latin America, for example, it was very interesting to have a workshop back in 2017, which was held in Mexico, where certain methodologies to work were proposed to face governance and also the different relation of these policies and also all these elements that are going to define the 17 SDGs that have been updated with this 2030 agenda. And this factor, which I also recognized from Leandro's presentation as the effects of this vision, I think that is a very important element. And this is why I wanted to emphasize something that I just mentioned. And this is why I didn't want to use the PowerPoint and all of that, because that is something that you can all analyze and see. But this is how we can nowadays be in the presence of these operational audits. And we also have to face a situation in which more and more we're going to have a cross-cutting vision that is going to be a complement to the operational audit and this evaluation. And it is that both institutions, tools, and work processes are going to be a part of an evaluation ecosystem in which both the evaluation can be used to improve the efficiency of operational audits, and also these operational audits can serve for the validation of evidence and also to incorporate new elements that are going to be of interest in relation to the development of this evaluation and all the current findings. And in this sense, on a PowerPoint, you can see where the evaluation can be useful when it comes to conduct an operational audit, and how can this audit can also help the evaluation clearly, and this is evident. And to conclude, because we have accumulated all the different topics, and of course, in light of the limited time that we have, I think that it's important to have a space for questions and answers. So I would like to refer to 4 or 5 experiences in the Latin American region and globally as well, because I think that this is going to mean that this evaluation focus is going to be a focus that is going to open the way towards the 2030 agenda, but also for other types of activities that in here might not be a part of this debate. So I wanted to mention the practice in Costa Rica. Concretely, I thought that this was going to be incorporated in a more explicit manner, like the integration or incorporation, even as observers, of all these supreme audit institutions to become a part of these dynamics and national processes for the capacity indexes or the process indexes to analyze cases like those with national indicators of skills when it comes to evaluation. And I think that this is a very interesting experience that is going to allow for the audit institutions and the regional factor to become a part of the national dynamic that can become a very interesting element. And as for the process for training that has been also mentioned during the presentations, it's important to mention that I think that this is a fundamental process that has been disaggregated. And I remember that for a long time now, We have had this case in Latin America, along with the different interventions in different congresses. For example, in last year Congress, I had the honor of coordinating the evaluation area. And we had a very important, interesting participation from the Latin American region. And the same for this year during the different presentations that we've had that in principle have been programmed for the development of the Congress in Colombia. I think that there are also very interesting topics that can be linked to the 2030 agenda, but also related to public policies and also related to determine formulas that are related to the way in which we can evaluate different activities that have been proposed in big cities and also indigenous communities with different extraordinary experiences, and very, very important and interesting. Yes, I'm wrapping up my participation, and the experience that we have had with the case of the National Controller's Office in Colombia, for example, where Antonio Lopez and myself co-directed. Well, Antonio Lopez, I see his picture, so he is participating today. So we co-directed a very long and interesting course with over 200 officers for the National Controller's Office in Colombia in relation to how we can evaluate this evaluation focus for the Supreme Audit institutions. And to finish, something very important when it comes to Supreme Audit institutions, both in the case of Africa and in the case of Latin America as well, and also the European case, why not, is that these Supreme Audit institutions are going to go beyond their world and their kingdom, as we say in Spain, and to open to the experiences of their own realities that we have outside of these supreme audit institutions. When it comes to the evaluation and also when it comes to budget planning for different institutions, because what I have found usually when it comes to the evaluation topics in Latin America and many countries in Latin America, I would say, is that there is a lack of knowledge on behalf of audit institutions and other departments in relation to the advance when it comes to evaluation in that particular country outside of these audit institutions that in many occasions are very relevant. For example, the Chilean case, without a doubt, from the budget framework, and also the Colombian case, without a doubt, in relation to synergies. And as for Mexico, there is a high influence on also the Brazilian case, where we can see different experiences on behalf of Supreme Audit institutions that are currently working on this framework for this evaluation focus. And this is the incorporation that I have been mentioning for the different national proposals that should not be a part of the 2030 agenda as well, because we need to potentiate all of these, but also when it comes to the evaluation experience that is definitely becoming a part of a shared environment with these operational audits, which can make us advance and learn together in order to be more efficient and effective. And I think that this would be really important in the case of Africa and Latin America to have more permeability. Thank you. Thank you, Juan Antonio. Unfortunately, we ran out of time already. So we have some questions in the chat, and hopefully we can have 5 minutes for a Q&A session.
Thank you very much for responding the first questions directly in the chat because we're running a little bit out of time for our discussion. So it's great that you took the initiative to start responding to some questions. I would like to, there was one question at the beginning regarding from Ian Davis. Are SAIs auditing or considering auditing claims with respect to achievements of greenhouse gas reduction by governments, national energy and climate plans? So I would like to pose this question to the panelists. If you know of any SAI that is auditing or considering audits with respect to greenhouse gas reduction by governments.
Elena, may I ask a question regarding the way how to deal with the questions in the chat and possible others?
Yes, sure.
Could we have the possibility to send questions to you and that the panelists later on, or everybody who likes to, could answer that? Because we run out of time. We have another 20 minutes, more or less. And I'm sure not all of the questions can be answered and can be asked. So
definitely.
Great if that would be possible.
Yes, that would be my suggestion also, that everyone feel free to send me an email. I can put my email directly in the chat, and I can contact you to the panelists directly, so we can continue also the discussion bilaterally between everyone who's interested.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So I just started with the first question on greenhouse gas emissions, and if there's any auditing processes you might be able to report on. Dolores, yes.
I answered Ian's question before on the chat. Yeah, I told him that we are now currently auditing the management of the greenhouse gas emission allowances, but I'm afraid the report is not published yet, but hopefully we will have it published on our website by the end of this year. So because they're currently carrying out the auditing. That's what I can say about that. No. So I encourage Ian, if he's interested in that particular issue, just to check our website, the Spanish SAI, maybe by the end of this year, so he could find the report in Spanish. Obviously, it's not translated into English.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there any other information by other panelists regarding climate change, greenhouse gas emission reductions on the topic?
Bueno, tal vez ahí nada más aportar que la Contraloría también ha realizado estudios.
I would like to say that at the Controller's Office, we have conducted studies on climate change and its impact on public finance to quantify the results of this implementation on the extreme meteorological events. And this is going to have a fiscal effect that can be quantified of, say, 2 or 3% of the GDP. It's a different type of study. It is not an operational audit, but it consists of a more research type product, and you can see it in our website. Well, as for the OLACEF's region, we have not programmed or planned an audit yet for the effect of greenhouse gases and their emissions. But I think that for the near future, we should think about this type of audits, because currently the two audits with an environmental focus and related to climate change are those for protected areas. led by Brazil, and also another audit on environmental mining liabilities led by the Controller's Office in Chile. But as I said, the topics are being selected on a yearly basis. So eventually for the near future, we might have a revision on that. Thank you. If there are no other comments in relation to climate change and these types of emissions, then we would move on with other questions. We have another question by Ian David as well for Julissa. And he says that when we talk about concept sustainability, is a concept that can be applied to processes, but not to results. For example, when it comes to impact and durability is applied. So can it be a long-lasting result with a process that is not sustainable, like fossil fuels? Maybe, Ian, you can further elaborate or make the question directly to Julissa again, if you can.
Bueno, es solamente
well,
precisión terminológica.
I'm just talking about term accuracy, because we normally talk about sustainability of results. And I think that it can be useful to distinguish between the concept of durability and the concept of sustainability. And the risk is we might not have enough attention on processes, because we have a focus that is almost obsessive with results. And I think that it is important to make this distinction. Thank you. Yeah, maybe as I mentioned, the audit will focus first on the access related to governance, on sustainable public procurement, and in here it is important to see how all actors can work together towards a common goal, and they can even study their regulations implied and also related to processes, because I mentioned that it has been interesting to see how some stakeholders cannot be identified as part of this topic, when the regulation might say that this is a part of this topic, but it happens because we have a group of stakeholders that are related to a particular topic, in this case, sustainable public procurement. And they also needed to be familiar with each other, to coordinate and work towards a common goal. And in this case, there might be a series of processes that might also need to adapt and be improved. Thank you, Julissa.
I would like to take one last question, because we already exceeded our time. A question to you, Edmund. You talk about the collaboration between SAIs and ministries and how important this is. And Catherine Murillo would like to know in which country, like, do you know any country where the ministries effectively implemented the recommendations made in the PFM report studies? I think this is a very important question in evaluation. Also, the use of the recommendations is a very important topic. So do you know of any examples where the results of the PFM reporting tool were used to for political decisions, or even maybe include the data into the national monitoring and evaluation systems?
Thank you so much for that question. I was busy typing away trying to answer, but look, I'll do it verbally now. First of all, we need to understand that when we talk of collaboration, we really note that the collaboration with the ministries, because at the end of the day, they are the auditees. The collaboration is done to the extent that it does not diminish or impede on the independence of the SAI in any way. So what we have learned so far is that even though we haven't done a formal assessment on the extent to which the PFM results have been implemented by institutions, but what we've done is we've done workshops post that with stakeholders from other ministries. And what we've learned is that for the size of Zimbabwe and the size of Rwanda, it seems like there has been a healthy uptake on the reports which the Auditor General has prepared using the PFM tool itself. And I would like to think that such a follow-up would result in us seeing some action which has been put on the ground. But it's good to have such a question because then we can actually formalize a follow-up on the uptake of the recommendations going forward in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ed. I would like to come to an end now of our panel. I included my email address in the chat, so if there are any questions or you would like to get in touch with one of the panelists, feel free to contact me. Also, if you're interested in evaluation capacity development or the work of Deval, feel free to contact me. Maybe just some last thoughts and some takeaways to the panel, at least some things I noted down. I'm sure everyone has his or her own notes on this very interesting panel. So first of all is that there's really an impressive work by SAIs regarding evidence-based generation of evidence and of new information, both on a regional level and on national level. I think someone, oh, okay, sorry. I thought someone just wanted to say something. So that is really impressive to see the work that SAIs do on the topic of SDG implementation and also integrating the principles of the 2030 agenda in audits. Very interesting, and thank you very much for sharing these examples with us. I think one main point I would like to point out is that, first of all, collaboration is necessary between SAIs and like-minded institutions. So sharing data, sharing information. So, for example, evaluation institutions are can take this data for their evaluations, or that SAIs do use data from other relevant government institutions. That is a very important topic and a contribution towards evaluation culture in their countries. Also, very interesting to think about what prerequisites an SAI would need to be able to implement some evaluation focuses in their works, not only regarding their mandate, but the whole political context, the commitment by decision makers towards evaluation and evidence-based decision making, but also the demand for evaluations by the parliament and the own cultural institutional culture in Supreme Audit institutions. I think those were also some very interesting points to take with us for the future. So those would be my main takeaways regarding the short time we only have. So I would like to thank everyone for his and her presentations. It was a very fruitful panel. I personally learned a lot, so thank you very much. And I do hope we, yes, feel free to contact me in any case, and thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you here, and I wish you all a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Helena. Thank you, everybody. It was really wonderful.
Thank you.
Muchas
Thank you very
gracias, que
much.
esté muy bien.
Gracias. a todos.
Gracias. Gracias.
Hasta luego, gracias.
Gracias. Hasta pronto. Quizás.
Thank you, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Hola, ¿cierro ya la reunión o para empezar a renderizar los videos?
Sí, perfecto. Cerramos la reunión. Muchas gracias. Don
Muchas
Bernardo.
gracias,
Muchas
mil
gracias.
disculpas por los errorcillos que hubo. Todo está coordinado para hacerlo mejor mañana.
No se
bien?
preocupe, todo bien.
De verdad.
También disculpas porque al final atrasamos por 25 minutos.
Todo bien, estamos para servirle.
Muchas
Voy a
gracias.
cerrar. Que tengan un
Muchas
bonito
gracias.
día. Gracias.
Igualmente,
No,
gracias.
también.
Hasta luego, chao.
Gracias por todo.
Good.